Hey, everybody, welcome back to Real Estate Today. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Beggins, with my brother
Greg Beggins here.
and our adopted brother,
Mike Puma.
Mike Puma. So we've got a lot to share with you today. So again, this is our customer, you guys, this is for the general buying public. This is not for our agents, even though they watch and get some good content on it. But this is our way to kind of advise, empower, educate, and encourage you as the buying and selling public about what's going on in the marketplace today, so you can make some smart moves and some good decisions to help build your real estate wealth. So today, I think we'll start with an interesting quote. Craig, you've got one from a guy who's pretty good with the investment strategy world.
Yeah, most people know his name. Warren Buffett has a famous statement that says, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. So let that sink in for a second. Where are we now in the world? Are we greedy or are we fearful?
Fearful.
No question about it. The
Well,
media is making everything sound so bad. And Jeff, we do, Mike, you too. We have these slides and these charts, and we're showing our agents the truth about what's happening. And the one that stuck out to me the most is Florida real estate from 1991 to today has appreciated 428%. Holy, that's 30 years, right? But 400, name another asset that's gone up 428% in 30 years. Nothing. So I think what we want to talk about today is, how do you use real estate, not as a fix and flip and all that other stuff and pay capital gains tax? How do you use real estate to build wealth, right? For generational wealth, really. So you have something to pass on to your kids when you go, or just to live comfortably without Social Security being your main source of income. We got to start now. And, this is a 20-year process that we're going to talk about today. It's not a fix, get rich quick scheme. We can do that too. We buy houses, flip them, make a couple bucks and move on. But the serious investing in real estate doesn't really get talked about much. So I think we should dive into that today.
Yeah, absolutely dive into that one today, especially because of this. I mean, we all like to sound like we're all really great in investments, and all of our homes are worth a lot more than we paid for them. Especially the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen in essence a doubling in many of our micro markets around Florida right now. Mm-hmm. And before everyone gets too really confident about your wise investment strategies, let's be realistic. You went to sleep, right? You bought a house, you went through life, and while you're going through life, market forces happened in a certain way where you now have a lot of trapped wealth, right? And that's really what it is. It is money that you really didn't do much for. Yes, you made a nice investment, but you now have money, but it's potential money, right? It's potential energy.
It's like buried in your backyard.
Right, it's there. But we got to talk about what our options are with that, because to your point, this is the time to be smart. This is the time to really make some moves, but calculated moves to make your life better. We always say to our agents, we got to think about what's going to put a big ass smile on your face. And that's a question for you too, is what lifestyle adjustments would put a big ass smile on your face, and for your kids or your grandkids or your neighbors or your church or your communities? And what would you like to do to give back or to bring more things to yourself? And if you boil it down, money is kind of the cause, is kind of what makes all those things happen. And most of us are sitting in a potential right now with a pile full of equity. And so we want to talk about some ideas about what could you do with that, and to not stretch yourself, because we want you to be very, very thoughtful about what we're doing, but to make some smart moves along the way.
Well, let's talk about the clarity, focus, actions, and accountability. That applies to this.
Yeah.
Right. Clarity is having a long-term vision of what you want to do. Right. So, I mean, I got a 401k. I'm never going to get rich with that. I've got an IRA. Never going to get rich with that. It's not going to make me wealthy in retirement. So what else do I got? My checking account. Hopefully I don't have a credit card debt. And that's it. So I'm going to go through life for the next 20 years without clarity and a plan to get someplace else. Nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to, live on Social Security when I get old, and hopefully.
Or you've been working for your lifetime and you have been stuffing away in the 401k and the IRA, and it's going to create a certain retirement lifestyle for you.
Yeah, but what's happened to your IRA and your 401k?
Depends how long you've had it, right? If you've started pushing, if you're 50 something, been started when you were 20 something, it's probably reasonable but that's gonna allow you to retire at a certain level, right? The questions are you gonna hang out at that level? Or would you like to see if there's something else you could tap onto that level to have different experiences for your life, right? And then at the level that you're gonna retire at, could you donate a wing to your church or to your school? Maybe, maybe not, right? Is that important to you? Maybe, maybe not. So this is kind of the clarity part to think about what could you do to live a more fulfilled life, right? What are some things you haven't done yet? Where are some places you haven't gone yet? What are some contributions you wish you would have made but you haven't yet? What are some things that you can do that that put a big smile on your face and make you happy, bring you fulfillment, right? And this is the opportunity that we have in a marketplace like this to actually do that, right? But you got to get excited about it because we're going to give you some ideas, right? Just to kind of spur on some more ideas for you.
Well, I think using your home equity though to enhance your wealth just as a logical thing to do, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't look at it as a logical thing to do, right? I mean, think about it. Why did you start your 401k? Why? It wasn't to get rich in a year. You could have put that money in your bank account and let it sit there, right? You started it for a reason, because it was the belief that if I put in this money over time, by the time I go to retire, 20 years, 30 years, however long that is for you, there'll be enough in there and it will be more than what I originally put in, right? If I told you now that you're going to put 10,000 in and in 30 years, you'll get 10,000 out, that's not very exciting, right? But you did it because you believed that that was a logical thing to do to build some income for yourself long term when you get ready to retire. Well, if we think about it from that perspective, you have money sitting essentially doing nothing in your home, right? If for most of you, now if you just bought your house a month ago, yeah, you're gonna have to wait a little bit and let it grow, right? But if we're talking to those that have bought their home a year, 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, 30 years, right? These are people that have built, let time go, right? Just like you did in your 401k, you let it grow and it's grown. It's done what real estate does best, which is appreciate over a long period of time, right? So your values have gone up and you have cash sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Now you could, just like the money in your bank account, let it sit there and do nothing. Or we can have a purpose for that money and we can pretty safely, right? Nothing's risk-free, and there's some risk involved in anything, including this, and we'll dive into that. But you have a relatively low risk of an investment that you can take that cash and go deploy it and make more, right? So it's just kind of a logical thing to do. And unfortunately, we just don't look at it that way all the time.
Right. Well, the one thing that really stands out to me, if you're financially savvy at all, if I have $500,000, how much stock can I buy?
$500,000.
$500,000. If I get $500,000, how much real estate can I buy?
A lot.
Right? You can leverage, right? So when I leverage, I get gains on my cash, but I'm getting appreciation on the purchase price, which is an amazing tool. And here's a secret. I do a lot of reading, as you guys know. Robert Kiyosaki is one of the guys, the father of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and other things. And his CPA is a guy named Tom Wheelwright, who writes a bunch of books. And he wrote a book called Tax-Free Wealth. And it's basically saying you're never going to get rich paying taxes. So you need to, incorporate some tax planning into this. And that's where real estate comes in, because here's what Tom Wheelwright says, is that the government very secretly tells you what to do. And if you do what they want you to do, they reward you. For example, they want you to buy real estate, so they let you depreciate the asset and save on your taxes. They want you to buy real estate, so they give you tax deductions on the property taxes and your insurance and things like that. They want you to invest in solar, so they'll give you tax breaks for that. So if you do what the government wants you to do, you get rewarded with tax savings. And when you get tax savings, then your wealth goes up. So all this stuff all kind of ties together. So how do you want to start this?
Well, let's just go through a random scenario, right? So Mike, great case.
Let's use Mike. Let me like to pick on Mike. Mike, how long have you lived in your home?
7, 8 years.
Has it doubled now in value since you bought it? Probably
More than double. Yeah.
more than double. Right? Did you refinance and pull a whole bunch of cash out?
No, we did pull a home equity line out maybe 4 years ago or so.
Okay.
Just a little bit though. We didn't pull a lot out.
Well, it wasn't 4 years ago. It wasn't worth what it's worth today.
Correct.
So let's talk, what is a home, what is, we say HELOC, what is a HELOC?
Home equity line of credit.
Right, what a line of credit is really a credit card. Right, and a lot of people don't get this. If I get a home equity line of credit is a second mortgage.
Yeah.
So you're pledging your collateral. I'm not trying to make light of this. Your collateral, if you don't pay it back, they can take your house.
Correct.
Right, so we're not talking about making stupid investments here. Like I did in 2005, I got a home equity line of credit and went and bought a couple jet skis and did all that stupid stuff. We're not talking about stuff like that. So a home equity line of credit is a second mortgage on your house. They're generally given by banks and credit unions. You're not gonna go to a loan officer at a mortgage company and get a HELOC. There's not enough money in it for them. So like TD Bank is where I have mine. I believe it's $99 as a fee. I gotta provide my credit and tax returns, and there's no appraisal cost. It's just really easy. So they look at the value of my house online. They go, oh, you got this much mortgage, you got this much equity. We'll give you a line of credit of this much money. Right, so I pay my $98, sign online. They've got a second mortgage on my house. Now, how much does that cost me every month? I've got this, let's say it's a $250,000 line of credit. How much does that cost me a month?
Depends how much you use.
I haven't used any.
Zero.
Nothing.
Cost me nothing, right? Now, and this is a stat, I think you told me this. How many, or maybe it was Chris. How many of them, there's a big staggering amount of Americans that don't have enough cash if something terrible were to happen to them.
Yeah, $1,000 of an average American can't afford $1,000 unexpected expense.
$1,000 unexpected expense. That could be a deductible from a car accident, you know?
Yeah, that could
So,
be.
it just makes sense.
breaking their arm.
It just makes sense to have, if you have this equity in your house, it makes sense to put it in a bucket, whether you use it or not. Just heaven forbid, if you had to get helicopter lifted out of a car accident, you know, and your insurance didn't cover it all, you'd be screwed. Right, and then you file bankruptcy. So that makes no sense. So you should have a home equity. So go to a TD Bank, a Bank OZK, a Grove Financial Credit Union, your credit union, whatever. Check out the rates and the terms. So generally, you know, the rates are the rates. It's going to be prime plus 1% usually.
Yeah.
And it'll adjust up and down as it goes. So it's really easy to do. There's no complications here. Now, if you have crappy credit, right, and then you're not going to get one, right? But if you're financially solid, it's not hard to go to your local bank. And you know, if you bank at Bank of America, ask them. But you don't have to get it from Bank of America. You can get it from a different bank that you don't bank at. So it's a really simple process to go through. Not a lot of, it's not like getting a mortgage.
And let's underscore that again, because just because you pulled out the opportunity to have $250,000 available doesn't mean we're telling you to go use it, right?
God, no.
Step one is just have that sitting there like a prepaid debit card in your kitchen drawer, costing you nothing, but gives you flexibility, gives you options, right? And that's the beautiful thing about what we're talking about. Then when an opportunity presents itself or a need arises that you have to touch it, at least it's nice to know it's there, right? And it's nice to know it's there. And
I
then,
wrote down a couple things, and this is just a joke, but you could buy a Harley or a new boat. And then I hear that leader's commercial going, no, don't do it, right? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're not just going to go buy toys. We're talking about building financial wealth long-term. So
we're talking about buying things that, so if it costs you 6% to borrow the money, we're talking about not doing anything unless it pays you more than 6%.
correct.
Talking about leveraging, you're talking about smartly using money to make money.
And that book that Robert Kiyosaki, I was reading, he wanted to buy a Ferrari. And he went to his wife, her name's Kim, and said, hey, Kim, I want to buy a Ferrari. And the typical wife would tell the husband, hell no, you're not buying a friggin' Ferrari. Her answer was, sure, what are you going to buy to pay for it? So go buy an apartment house that makes $2,500 a month profit and use that apartment house to make the Ferrari payment. Right? That's a different way of looking at things. So it's just a paradigm shift, right? But I wrote down, trade in your credit card debt. A lot of Americans have huge credit card debt. What's your credit card debt interest rate? 18 to 24%, probably.
Not good.
So you could use your HELOC at 7% and pay down your credit card debt and then work on paying that back. You're basically becoming your own bank. You're lending money from your house to yourself, and then you pay yourself back. It's a great opportunity. So if you're saddled with credit card debt at a high interest rate, a home equity line of credit can help you consolidate those things, and you're paying less interest. So that's a win. I wrote down, renovate, improve, or repair your home has treated you pretty damn well, right? You need a new roof, your home will pay for it. You need a new water heater, your home will pay for it. Now you got to pay it back. Don't get me wrong. We're not doing this. But take care of the asset that's taking care of you. That's taking care of you. Trade in student loan debt if the interest rates are beneficial. Student loan debt is one of the biggest problems this country has. And I don't think they're charging that much interest right now in the current environment. But if you got a lot of student loan debt that is choking you, you could potentially use your home to get rid of that monthly payment. And then the most important one that I think is really relevant today is use that equity to make a down payment on an investment property, right? And then our agents are trained to help you figure this out, right? So there's 4 things we want to look at when we're buying an investment property. Number 1 is how much down, right? Your down payment is going to leave a mortgage balance. The mortgage balance is going to include a payment. Now we'll help you figure out what that rental income could be, right? And if the mortgage payment is here and the rental income is here, then you have something called a yield. So that's profit over the payment. And make it real simple now. So that's it. So if the rent exceeds the payment by a certain percentage, then it's a good investment, right? I'm not saying it's perfect. Things can go wrong and we budget for those things. But then what we don't understand about this concept, or a lot of people don't think about, is when the renter makes the payment, your payment is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. 4 things. So every time they make a payment, they're paying off your loan. So the amortization component, every time you get more equity every time your tenant makes a payment. So long-term, 20 years from now, your tenants paid 20 years worth of payments for you. Your principal is going down and you owe less and less and less on the house, which means your payments are staying the same. These are fixed rate loans we're talking about. That's that. So you got the yield, the increased rent over the mortgage payment. You got the amortization paying down your loan. Then you get this magical thing the government gave us called depreciation, which at the end of the year, you get to say, hey, this house was worth this. Now it's been depreciated by this much, and that comes off your income taxes. So now your income taxes go down. So you got amortization reducing your principal, and you got depreciation reducing your taxable liability. And that's enough right there. That's enough reason right there to buy a house.
Well, and another angle though is certainly using that money to go buy an investment property could make a lot of sense. The other angle though is maybe you're currently living in your investment property, right? And the way that, I'll just use myself as an example. Right now, my house is perfect for what we want. We're very tied to it because it's tied to the school that we want our kids to go to, all that stuff. But if tomorrow a unicorn popped up that I was not aware of, that fit everything we want, that fit our lifestyle better, if this house all of a sudden didn't fit my lifestyle anymore, and there was something else we really wanted, something else we really needed, right? That in our house that we could go get somewhere else. Well, now all of a sudden, should I sell my house? Well, that's certainly an option, but I have a 4% interest on this. Why would I ever sell that? That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Nope. Especially when I know I could rent this house. This could become my investment property. This would cash flow me $1,000 or more a month, right? Use the equity of this as my down payment for the new house and have this house now help pay for the new mortgage, if not cover it completely. So now I have an investment property that's appreciating, and I have a house that I'm able to move into that fits my current lifestyle better than my current house. So that's just another way to look at it, right? But again, it's what I love about the equity situation is it's simple math, right? It's simple of saying, hey, this is how much the money costs me. This is how much it's going to cost me to go buy this property. Rates, everything already calculated into it. Does it make sense or does it not, right? And it's a relatively simple math equation there to decide.
Yep, I love it. So the background behind us is BE3, and the E to the third power means empower, educate, and encourage. And that's really what we're doing here. Just talk about, we're giving you the pros and the cons. But you're right, Mike. I love that. I use my daughter as an example. She bought her house 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 years ago, and it's fully doubled. And she likes where she's at. So she's gonna use her equity to put an addition on.
Yep.
How cool is that? She wants a new master bedroom and bath. Right?
Yep.
And the neighborhood's appreciated this much, she can afford to do it. And it will, her house will be worth even more than the cost of the renovation.
Yep.
Right? And it's good for the economy too.
Yep. And essentially that, I mean, that type of thing, because we've looked at that too, right? We're about to redo our entire master bath in our home here. And so I had contractors come out, and one of them was like, hey, you know, we finance. And I was like, okay, what does that look like? Right. And it was like 12% interest rate, you know, and it wasn't because of my credit. That's just what they were charging. And I'm like, all right, so I could pay them 12%, or I could borrow it from myself, pay significantly less, and at the same time be adding value to my house, right? So it's just a way to kind of treat yourself like the bank, because you have the money. If you have equity, you have the money sitting there, right? And again, maybe that's not the best use of the money. I think for most people, leveraging that money to generate more cash flow makes a lot of sense. But if you're going to go do those things, it makes sense. And then I was talking to a buddy the other day, and I know a lot of people have this concern. Well, you know, rates are 8%, you know, I'm hearing that I shouldn't be buying anything right now. Well, okay, but let's take a look at that, because the reality is, I don't know about you, but anyone who tried to buy anything in the last 18, 24 months wasn't a very enjoyable experience, right?
No.
When the rates were in 2%, 3%, and you were paying $75,000 above ask, right? And you were competing with 47 other offers, that's not an enjoyable experience. So yes, are certain pockets of the market slower than maybe they were? Sure. Are there less overall buyers and competition in the market? Yeah, right. So now, do I have more leverage as a buyer? If I am interested, can I go in and get creative and get them to buy down the interest rate? Certainly, right? I mean, you're seeing it. I'm seeing it on a lot of listings in the market. We're offering $10,000 towards closing costs or rate buy down. Awesome.
Adams Family Homes just sent out a flyer to us yesterday. They're paying us a 4% commission. Come bring your buyers to our properties. We're going to buy their interest rate down to 4.75%, and we're going to give them $15,000 in closing costs.
So that's huge incentive, right? And then even if it's not a new home, there's a lot of pockets where you could offer at asking or below, right? And again, a lot of times, if you have a good agent, they may advise you, hey, let's come in at the asking price. But if we were going to come in 15,000 lower, we'll come in at ask, but let's ask them to use the 15 grand to buy the rate down. And if you do the math, you're going to be far better off in most cases doing that. So again, now it's just a matter of getting creative. But my point being is that this is a great market to buy in if you have the buying power, which if you have equity, you have buying power. So now's the time to leverage that versus trying to do it in a market where everybody's trying to buy. This is actually a really good opportunity if you're smart about it.
Well, let's be clear about this too. Investment loans are safer, honestly, because you generally have to put down between 20 and 30%, mostly 25 or 30% down.
Yeah.
So let's say we find a $300,000 house. What's 30% of 300,000? 90 grand.
Yep.
So you need $90,000 for down payment, but that means you've only got a $210,000 mortgage.
Sure.
Right. So is the market going to crash? Is the market going to drop 30% with 1,000 people a day moving into our counties? Probably not.
Probably not.
Right.
No one has a crystal ball.
No.
But Jeff and I were talking the other day. Then you have platforms, because this is the other thing that's come up in my conversations. You have people say, well, I don't like the risk of being tied to one asset, right? Because what if something happens to that one asset? That's why I like stocks, because I can buy, you know, I'm not putting 100% of my money in Apple. I'm putting some in Apple and some here and some there, and I'm able to diversify my portfolio, and that, you know, that de-risks the situation. Well, now you have platforms like a Rock Homes, right, where you can do exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
so
you
if
can
you're
buy a
one of those
percentage of a
people,
house.
it's like, hey, I want to take 30 grand, but rather than spend 30 grand and go put that down towards an investment property, I'm going to take that 30 grand. I'm gonna go into a platform like Arrived Homes, and I'm gonna go invest 10,000 here, 5,000 in this home, because you can actually invest and get portions, and they tell you what kind of return you can expect on each of those. And now I can take that 30 grand and leverage that over maybe 5 homes or 4 homes or 3 homes or 2 homes or whatever I want. And I'm doing essentially the same thing I would do with stock, but now I'm doing it in real estate. And
Which
that
gets
hasn't existed before.
Yeah, but I want to say it again. If I got 100 grand, I get 100 grand worth of stock. If I get 100 grand, I get $500,000 worth of real estate,
Sure.
right? And I get the tax benefit from $500,000. I get the appreciation on 500,000.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's a whole different game that people don't think about. And that's where my thing is. Awareness gets you flexibility. Flexibility gets you options, and options give you power. So just become aware of what you're sitting on, because you're sitting on acres of diamonds right now. And with that awareness, it gives you flexibility. You can put a pool in, you can fix your current house, you can trade in your credit card debt. Those are options. You have flexibility, and which gives you options, and options give you power. So it's just a really cool thing to do. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a seminar, a live seminar next Wednesday at 5 o'clock on the 12th of April, 2023. And, email us or tag us or whatever. And we'll send you a link if you want to watch it. We're going to do a whole dog and pony show on this whole topic.
And there's so many different things you could buy. Like we're launching a really nice beach resort, a branded one. I can't say the name yet, but in Madeira Beach. And we're going to be selling properties for 20% down. You want to talk about your leverage move?
You're talking about a condo hotel, right?
Talking about an investment property on the beach that you can stay in, but it's going to be rented. It will be a condo hotel operated by one of the largest hotel brands in the world, soon to be released. But we haven't even released the project yet. We're going to be doing that in the next few weeks. But that's, you can get one of those units for 120 grand down, right? So it's a $600,000 unit, but you're getting it for $120,000 down.
Well, wait, you got to stop that point right there.
Yeah.
Most people you lost them all. Who's got 120 grand in the checking account? Not a lot of people.
Yeah, but you
But
sleep
where do they have 120 grand?
where you sleep.
Yeah. Equity in your home. You probably have. Most of us can't write a check for 120 grand as a down payment on an investment property. But you can with the equity in your home.
Right.
And you think about that long term. Now, I'm telling you, there's math behind this. I'm not going to go into it here, but there's math. If the payment is this much and the rent income is this much, check the box. If the payment is this much and the income is this much, don't check that box.
Right.
So it's like kissing frogs, right? You got to kiss 100 frogs to find the prince. Same thing. We're not saying this is easy. You're gonna have to look at 100 houses. Maybe not. Well, we can do it online now. Look at 100 houses to find the one that meets the criteria that you're looking for.
Right.
But we just want to make you aware of the opportunity.
Right.
Which gives you some flexibility.
And also, I want you to think about the basis of the money, the cash on cash return and the leverage. Right. So let's take the $600,000 asset and you put $120,000 down, which you pulled a line of credit from your home. So you're really paying, what do you think you're going to pay on a $120,000 line of credit? How much per month?
$800 a month.
$800. Okay, so that's going to be your payment. So it's not like I'm getting $120,000 out of a big estimate. No, it's about $800 a month. Is going to be your rent for that $120,000. It's being loaned to you in the home that you have that has the equity. So now the smart thing is, okay, if I do something with this 120,000, it better be bringing in me more than $800,000 or don't do it. That's why the jet ski is a bad idea, and so is a Harley, and so is the RV. Because it's not, it put a smile on your face, maybe priceless, but you're not allowed to do that, right? You can do that with what you bought. So you go take that 120, put it down on something, and then that spits off $1,500 a month, right? Positive or something like that. Now you've got free cash flow of $1,500 a month after you paid your HELOC payment, home equity line of credit payment. Now you've got that extra cash that you say, honey.
Oh, and you can deduct that $800 payment too, by the way.
There you go. Or and
$10,000 in deductions off your federal income tax.
And depending on the project you're buying, there's also projects that we're doing now that you can do, some pretty good serious depreciation moves on these as well. We got one project that we're doing right now that the first year depreciation is close to $500,000 on the house that they're able to buy. So talk about that leverage opportunities, right? That's almost what you're going to have to put down.
I mean, that would make you have basically no federal tax bill for years, depending on how much money you make.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, this particular house, a 9-bedroom house in Johns Pass on the water, it's a $3.8 million home, but you're going to put 750 or so down, but you're going to be able to write off 500 in the first year. So you're really putting 250 down on a $4 million asset, right? Think about that. And there's a lot of people have 250 in the home that they're sleeping in that they could leverage that with the write out. It's unbelievable. Now you still have to qualify for the $4 million home, but you can get 2 or 3 or 4 people together, form an LLC and do that. Right. And the smart money is to buy the depreciation. So you're not doing it. I was at meetings today. We have some properties we're buying and we're talking about how we're going to split up the depreciation. Some people want the depreciation more than they do the income. Right. So it's a whole different asset class. So the point is, our goal here is to get your brain clicking and saying, oh, interesting. Right.
Never
Let me
thought of
a little bit on this one. Let me see. So the steps. Talk to an agent if you want to. I recommend you do, because it's just makes your life easier. And say who's a good lender for a home equity line of credit, or just call where you bank and say, hey, what's the process for getting a home equity line of credit? What does it cost? And do it. They'll do a little desktop appraisal. They'll tell you the whole deal. It might cost $100, whatever it may be, a few $100. But then you'll have that open cash, access to that cash. That's yours. It's your money. It's sitting there. You might as well have access to it right now. So for even if you never touch it, my recommendation is go have access, open up the line of credit. Don't touch it until you have a really good thing to do with your money, but at least have it.
I've got one. It's not, I don't owe a penny on it. It's just sitting there. So
Just-
when that asset pops up and I have the power to go get it.
Right. When I say, Craig, I need this by the night.
Right.
So, but that's the
Amazing opportunity, but you got to decide now.
and just buy now. So that's what our goal was for you guys today, was to let you start thinking about what would life be like for you if you had a few grand extra a month coming in, right? What stresses would be eliminated and how much fun could you have? What places could you go? What things could you do? Who can you contribute to? And what positive influences can you make in the world around you? And then you've got the money sitting there, guys. You're sleeping in it right now. So might as well access it. That's the point.
Well, think about, again, I want to stress the long-term component of this, but let's say in Mike's situation, making $1,000 a month on top of my payment. The smart thing to do is take some, and we can help you with this too, take some of that over rent, the $1,000 extra, and apply that to your mortgage so you pay it down faster. You can pay down a 30-year mortgage in 20 years by throwing an extra couple $100 at it.
Yep.
So do that. And now 20 years. So I'm 55. In 20 years, I'm 75. And I'm going to buy a couple of these. So now I bought a house for 300 grand. And in 20 years, what's that going to be worth? Well, I tell you, I've got graphs to show you. Florida real estate went up 428% in the last 30 years. So let's say it doubles and my $300,000 house is now a $600,000 house and I got 3 of them. Now I got a $2 million estate. That's
Right.
basically free and clear. And my rent that was $2,300 a month is now $3,200 a month. And I got 3 of them. So now I got $10,000 a month coming in every month on an asset that's free and clear. So I can live in retirement without have to worry. But if I don't start thinking that way now, when I'm 20, 30, 40, 50, it's going to be a lot harder to get to that point when I'm 60, 70, or 80. Right. Hopefully we thought about that before we got there. I wish I did. But that's kind of the strategy of how wealth is built long term. Forget about this, buy a house, sell it. First of all, you're going to get killed on capital gains taxes anyway. Right. And the tax advantages of all this are just powerful. So I think that's kind of the message we want to deliver. Reach out to us or our agents, and we will help you, put a strategy together, which is what you really need. Clarity, focus, actions, and accountability. And now also just important to note, but I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to be a landlord either. So what do we do about that, Mike?
Property management. There's
We've got the
a million
referrals for you.
We can refer you out to ones that we commonly use, but use them. They're your best friend. You don't have to be a landlord. You don't have to deal with the broken light bulb and this is out and I need a. They'll do that. Sure, there's a fee to it. Most are 10% of whatever you're charging on a monthly basis. So again, math equation, right? And this is why don't do this alone, right? If you really want to do this, call your agent. If you don't have one, or if you haven't talked to yours in a long time, call one of ours. I highly suggest that because they're smarter than probably your agent. But shameless plug. But seriously, it's a math equation, but these are the things that need to be factored in, right? Your taxes need to be factored in, repairs, maintenance over the course of all that stuff
Vacancies.
needs to get factored in. And at the end of that equation, it's either going to make sense or it's not, right? And so that make sure that's done, and your agent should be able to help guide you through that. But and the lender as well. But yeah, property management, easy peasy, hire someone. There's a million firms out there. We can certainly make some recommendations.
And I hate the thought that, yeah, but I can't pay 10%. We don't, first of all, we don't property manage, so I don't care.
No, we don't.
But I'm telling you, hire a property manager.
Yes.
And
100%.
the only way you do it, you build it into the price. Remember, so the cost is this much and the rent is this much. Well, the property management's in the cost. So the cost is going to be more because you're paying the property manager. But if the yield works because of the property management costs in there, execute. If it
Yep.
doesn't, pass, right?
Simple.
Right, it's an equation. So if it's running for $2,000 a week, you're talking about $100 to $200. So just factor that into the whole thing. That's your short-term vacation rentals. And
Which
it's-
is an option too. A really good option, actually. You look at the yields on short-term vacation rentals, they tower over the long term. A lot more turnover, right? Your property management's 20-25% on a short-term weekly or more. But there's a lot more cash flow.
a lot more.
But step number one here, just to bring this back to really simple terms before
you're right.
we end this. The very first step here, go talk to your bank or your lender or your agent and find out what your home is worth, what your options are, do you qualify, and then get the equity line secured. Even if you have zero idea what you want to do with it, go get it, right? If you can qualify, go get it. Now it's there, then you can start to get clarity and take the next steps at actually looking at your options. But before you even look at your options, because the last thing I'd want you to do is go get your hopes up and find an investment property and be like, oh, and go through all of this only to find out that you don't qualify for the home equity loan that you thought you did.
Right.
So call your lender, get qualified, get the home equity line in place, get it, let it sit there while you decide what you're going to do with it. Again, while it's sitting there, costs you zero, right? So go get it. That's step number one.
Nowadays, I go to the bank and I take out my phone and I transfer money from my credit line to my checking account and I wire the money to wherever I want to send it. I mean, that's just, it's that easy.
Yep.
Right. And then I pay it back and now I've got a zero balance again. It's like a credit card. If you don't charge on your credit card, you don't make a payment.
Right.
Fantastic. So good point, Mike. First point, secure the HELOC. And once that cash is in your pocket, we'll help you spend it.
Yeah, and then you get with an agent, you get set up on searches for things that you qualify for. And then you get to decide what you want and have the agent walk you through long-term, short-term. It doesn't even have to be in this town. You like the vacation in North.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was just thinking that. Mike, you've been buying some investment properties. Where at?
I bought some in Maryland. I bought some in Ohio. I'm looking in Michigan and
Did you even look at these houses?
Online. And I have a local agent in each of those markets and I trust them. And they go out and they know the local market. So they'll come back and she'll send me stuff pretty much every week and say, hey, this one's a really good opportunity. It's in a really good rental market. This is really strong. I know we can get 16 to 1800 a month for this. And I'll look at it and then it just becomes a math equation, right? And so, yeah, I've been buying, especially Ohio right now. You can pick up homes all day for 80 to 120 grand that cash flow, and they're renting for 1,800 to 2,000 a month. So really good opportunity.
Awareness gives you flexibility, flexibility gives you options, and options give you power. So think about where you are today, and with clarity, where would you like to be at retirement? And is real estate a way to help you get there? I mean, there's tons of books. You can go to Amazon and check out real estate investing. We're just gonna make it sound really simple. But like you said, step one.
So you bought a house for 80 grand, right? That's 16 grand down payment,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So his cash on cash return on his 16 grand is epic,
Yeah.
right? He's gonna be making 12
Doesn't suck.
on a $16,000 investment. It doesn't suck. Plus the depreciation that comes on to this one. So you don't have to buy $1 million property, guys. Just take this step and go make things happen. So
You don't want to buy $1 million property in most cases because they won't cash flow enough.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of the philosophy I've kind of followed personally is that the closer you can stay to the median average, the better, right? Because yes, they're not going to appreciate in the same way, right? An expensive home is going to appreciate faster and typically for more, just is what it is.
20% of $1 million is more than 20% of 400,000.
Right. But if you look historically, even in downturns, the market that is disturbed in either direction, the least amount is that median range, right? So I try and stay in that median range where I know from a safety perspective, I'm pretty much hedging my bet that no matter what the economy does, there's going to be people who can afford that rent and pay that, right? And as long as I get that, I'm good. If I get into a situation where my mortgage on this house is $5,000 a month or $7,000 a month or $10,000 a month, and all of a sudden rents start going down because the economy is hurting, and now really those wealthy people can only afford to pay $4,000 a month, I'm screwed, right? But if I know that 1,800 is going to drop to 1,600, as long as that number still makes sense, then I know I'm golden, right? And so it's just where you want to be, risk tolerance, right? Which is a completely different conversation, but just personally, that's how I've always looked at it. I try and stay around the median for the area that I'm looking.
No, let's add something else before we go. Where's the big money going? It's going into real estate, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's being poorly invested in real estate, but look at what happened with Blackstone or American Homes for Rent. These guys bought thousands and thousands and thousands of homes, and they're renting them. These big mega Wall Street corporations are taking their money and they're buying real estate. So don't think that you're like the smartest person in the world is doing this to you. And they're actually almost, if we want to get to conspiracy theories, trying to turn us into a rental country.
Well,
right? They're buying up all the single family homes.
pay attention to where a lot of these negative headlines are coming from. I posted the other day, I got into a little bit of a debate with a guy on Facebook because he literally posted an article. Can't make this up. It was on Thursday. An article comes out from the CEO of JP Morgan Chase that talked about how American, real estate was going to be in a major decline and we were entering this huge recession. It was this very fear-based article, right? I'm not joking. The next morning, the headline was JP Morgan secures a $200 billion fund to go purchase US real estate. Right? So I literally, he shared the article and he's like, this is from the largest bank in America, right? Trying to validate it. So the next day I linked him to that and I said, interesting that the same company that told you that you should not buy real estate right now just secured $200 billion to go buy real estate with. Interesting, right? It's just the game. It's the game that's being played. And if you look at where a lot of these articles are stemming from, and then look at that company's real estate holdings, the truth is in the pudding.
Yeah.
That's a good way to close.
Start comfy, start comfortable, but start, right?
Yeah. Step one, get a HELOC and understand the process. It feels good to know that I've got some dry powder if I need it for something, right? And like I said, I'm not using mine at all. But if I need cash, I don't have a problem accessing. I can do it from my phone.
All right, guys. Hopefully you got some nuggets here. And as always, like, comment, share, hit the subscribe button. We're always release a whole bunch of content to you. Always about empower, educate, and encourage. And tag a friend who you think might need to hear this. And reach out. You can always come get us, find us, reach out, call, text, email. And we're always here to help, guys. So thank you for your attention. And we'll see you next episode.
That's right.